Hello there, in this video we're going to check out the Gestalt principles, hopefully I'm getting that right, Gestalt principles, and these are going to be really helpful for you when you're designing, so let's go. Okay, welcome back to the file, or welcome back in this instance to my browser. So in this video we're going to check out Gestalt principles, and just scrolling down, these are just general guidelines for how brains make sense of what we see. So this is a really nice website that I found. It outlines the principles, gives examples, and kind of some do's and don'ts of what each principle does. So yeah, in summary, as it says on the homepage, these principles, they explain why we naturally group things together, spot patterns, and understand complex visuals. So this is of German origin, it's from the 1920s, and here are the different principles beneath. It's got nice animations across this website. It's nicely laid out, and I think there is 9 in total. Yeah, we've got 9 principles in total. So let's go through, let's tackle each one, and let's check them out. So let's start with similarity. So in summary, elements that look alike and are perceived as related, helping to quickly identify patterns and groupings. Nice visual up here, and it gives us, these are some quick links to different areas on the page, but if I scroll, so the key takeaways here: pattern recognition, our brains automatically group elements that share visual properties. Visual properties, color, shape, size, orientation, and texture can all establish similarity. Relational strength, multiple shared properties create stronger grouping. And avoid accidental similarity, ensure unrelated elements are visually distinct to prevent confusion. It's really nice because then it goes into when to use, when not to use, and common pitfalls. So on the when to use consistent styles for navigation menus, group related elements with shared colors or shapes, apply uniform styles to product cards or lists, highlight active states with consistent design, and create visual alignment for form fields and labels. So some nice clear when to use. We've got when not to use, and we've got some common pitfalls as well. So on the when not to use, using similar styles for aesthetics, conflating distinct interactions, avoid uniformity when emphasizing hierarchy, when unrelated items might appear connected, and if distinct designs improve usability. And common pitfalls: making unrelated elements look similar, overusing uniform styles and reducing clarity, neglecting visual priority for key action, and failing to update active states consistently. So these I think we're going to find across each of the principles. Probably a good idea to go to the website, have a click around, and just understand these in more detail. So it's there, it's on the website. I'd be impressed if you could remember all of this by memory, but it's good to have a reference point. So some examples in action: Spotify's playlist cards. So consistent visual treatment across playlist cards creates a unified browsing experience. So that's one example. On the branding side, Nike's product photography, standardized product photography angles and lighting across their catalog. And then we've got some iconography examples. So these are the Apple icons. And there's another UI design example here for GitHub issues. Yeah, I think you can click the images to make them slightly larger, but it's relatively clear. There seems to be a free course that links across this website, so that's fine. You can go and visit that if you like. And then we've got dive deeper, so some related content that you can explore. And then at the bottom, back to related principles. So let's just go back, go down, and let's visit the continuity page. Okay, so eyes naturally follow smooth paths, aligned or flowing elements, guide attention effortlessly. Okay, let's scroll the page. So on the takeaways, eyes naturally follow smoothest paths between elements, creating visual connection. Design for scanning, so arrange content in a predictable pattern, so F-shape or Z-shape layouts for intuitive navigation. Line completion, the mind connects elements that form continuous lines or curves. Directional force, elements aligned on a path appear related and sequential. Smooth transitions, gradual transitions between states or elements maintain context and flow. Okay, so we've got some when to use, when not to use, and common pitfalls. I'm going to let you dig into these because I want to go through all of the different principles and just have a look around on the website. So we've got some examples in action. So natural line of elements leading you from left to right. So that's Instagram stories. Duolingo's progress path, so the curving path to lead you to the goal while showing progress. And then we've got Trello and the Amazon logo, which are other great examples. Okay, let's go to the bottom and let's go to, I think the next one is proximity, so let's click on that. Okay, so objects placed close together are perceived as related, making grouping and hierarchy clear. Loving the animations as well to support the content on the page. So space signals connection. Distance between elements implies the strength of their connection. Distance and hierarchy. Closer items have a stronger perceived relationship. Increase white space to signal a different relationship. Modularity. Break content into digestible chunks using proximity to structure information. Again, some really useful when to use, when not to use, and common pitfalls. Let's scroll down to the examples. So we've got Netflix previews. Related content is closely grouped with the description title it belongs to. Okay, there's Morning Brew preview here, but that seems to be broken, so that's a bit of a shame. And then we've got Airbnb login modal. Different login methods are grouped closer together. Yep. Figma properties panel, something we're all familiar with. Related properties are positioned close together for easy mental mapping. Okay, great stuff. On to the next one. Okay, so figure ground. Distinguishing between a focal figure and its background allows key content to stand out clearly. Okay, let's go to the takeaways. So the first one, visual contrast. Clear distinction between foreground and background elements guides attention. Depth and perception. Use of shadows, blur, opacity creates meaningful layers of content. Ensure clear contrast, so use color, size, or depth to separate primary content from the background. Test for ambiguity. Make sure users can easily distinguish actionable elements like buttons from decorative ones. Okay, so we've got some good when to use, when not to use, and common pitfalls. Let's go straight into the examples. So Airbnb login modal. Modal is focused on top of the background content. Sherlock Holmes poster, that's quite cool. Figure ground illustration that swaps between smoke and a face. It's a really interesting use of color and the space. iOS widgets. Widgets are placed on top of the background wallpaper. Spotify mini player. So the mini player is movable above any background. Let's move on. Okay, on to the fifth. Common fate. Elements moving together are perceived as part of a group, making motion a tool to show relationships. Again, loving the animation. Okay, so takeaways. Shared movement. Elements moving together are seen as related. Convey hierarchy. Use animations to guide users through workflows or transitions. Shared transitions. Elements transforming in similar ways from natural groups. Dynamic relationships. Motion and transformation can create temporary groups. Again, when to use, when not to use, common pitfalls. All very useful. Let's go into the examples. So the Netflix content carousel, content all moves in the same direction, indicating they're in the same group. Spotify playlist draw popping up with content shows that actions belong together. Okay, there's a progress bar here that animates based on the direction of scroll, showing the progress is related to the content. And then MYT connection success, when you select the correct groupings, all the words animate in the same direction as a group. Okay, let's go on to the next one, closure. Okay, gaps are naturally filled to complete incomplete shapes, enabling communication with minimal detail. Okay, so the takeaways. Pattern completion. Users naturally complete incomplete shapes based on familiar patterns. Use implied shapes. So suggest shapes with partial lines or patterns to create intrigue. Space utilization. Negative space can create recognizable shapes and meaning. Ensure clarity. Make sure implied forms are easy to recognize and avoid overly abstract gaps. Great takeaways. We got our do's, our don'ts, and our common pitfalls, and then straight into the examples. So material UI icons. Icons are incomplete by design, but are still perceived as objects. The IBM logo is not a complete shape, but we can still make out the letters. Yep, the black swan poster. The shape of a face is implied in the white space. Yeah, that looks really good. Reddit onboarding pills. The recommended categories in the pill shapes are partially off the screen, but we're still able to fill in the missing shape and content. All right, let's move on to the next one. Symmetry and order. So symmetrical elements are seen as belonging together, creating cohesive and balanced groupings. Okay, so on the takeaways, consistent alignment. Use grids and alignment tools to ensure symmetry and clean design. Circular harmony. Radial balance creates focus and draws attention to central elements. Okay, visual weight. Distribute elements evenly to avoid visual heaviness on one side. Again, when to use, when not to use, and common pitfalls. Some really useful guidance here. Let's go straight into the examples. So YouTube player controls. The separate groupings within the controls container are balanced and orderly. Airbnb logo is perfectly balanced and symmetrical. The Google search page, the header, search and footer are all symmetrical, creating a balanced and easy to use experience. Dribble grid layout. The grid is a symmetrical, repeatable pattern, making it easy to scan. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, principle number 8. I'm not going to try and translate it or pronounce it because I'll probably butcher it, but in English it seems to translate to conciseness. Simple, clearer forms are preferred. Reducing complexity enhances clarity and comprehension. Okay, to the takeaways. So visual simplicity. Reduction of visual complexity helps users process information faster. So clear structure. Clear visual hierarchies make complex information digestible. Pattern recognition. Simple, recognizable patterns reduce cognitive load. And prioritize key actions. Highlight primary CTAs or content using size, color, or position. Okay, we've got our use, when not to use, and pitfalls. And going straight into the examples. So the Apple activity rings. The progress bars for your daily activities are simplified into closable rings, easily readable and transferable across different devices. Okay, Google's logo redesign. Google's 2015 logo redesign simplified the letters to be more easily digestible. The Google search page again. A complex interaction happens mostly behind the scenes as the interface is nearly as simple as it can be. So the Airbnb listing page, layouts and information are simplified to simple shapes and single actions to reduce cognitive load. All right, that's number 8 done. Let's go to the last one. Okay, number 9, common region. Elements with a shared boundary or background are seen as related, aiding quick understanding of groupings. Okay, to the takeaways. Okay, the boundary effect. Elements within shared boundaries are automatically grouped. Background unity. Shared backgrounds create immediate association between elements. 3, don't abuse borders. Don't overuse boundaries. Whitespace can group elements effectively too. And number 4, hierarchy nesting. Nested regions effectively show content hierarchy and relationships. So we've got when to use, when not to use, and our common pitfalls again. And let's just go straight into the examples. So the MYT recipe cards, each recipe and actions are contained in a card with a border. Okay, the Apple Weather app, different types of forecasts live within their own containers. Okay, Apple settings. Settings within the same category are grouped into separate containers with more closely related actions. And IDEO's blog list. Lines are used to create an implied region that contains the metadata for content. Okay, I think that's it. I think we're at the end. So credit to Jake, who's created the website. Good job. Really like the animations. So I love the home screen. You can hover on different items and it kind of references which principle it relates to. Really nicely done. So good job. So I think it's good to know what these are, get more information about them. And this is just another insight into how people and how the brain works and how people perceive things. I think if you've got this additional understanding of these principles, it's going to make you really optimize the page for your users. Just before we leave the page, let's go to the about. There is a brief history here. It talks about the 1920s and German psychologists were revolutionizing how we understand human perception. So this isn't a new thing. It's been around for a while. So definitely check out the website, have a read, have a play around with some of the pages, have a look at some of the reference material, and I think it's really going to help you out. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for getting to the end. So like, subscribe, all the things, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, we're done. Another video down. Today, you'd think it's a ruler, but actually, not ruler at all. Some kind of armband thing, but incredibly, well, if you get it the right way around, incredibly satisfying to handcuff yourself. I don't know, I'm not sure what the use is, but it's good. Another useful discovery in the study. Anyway, you guessed it, time for a drink, time to get I was going to say a spicy coffee, not a spicy coffee. Get a good coffee. I think that should be good. I need to stop waving this thing around because that's what it ends up being. So if you've got any thoughts, drop them in the comments. And yeah, that's another video done. I hope you're well. Have a great Sunday. See you next week.